Okay. Um. I mean, we're back once again. I'm not really gonna complain too much on this one. I'm just gonna kind of try and reason with, because I've had a couple of days to cool off, and I've had a couple of days to kind of think of other alternatives for why JJK is ending the way that it is. But all I'm gonna say is that authors tend to create this world that we've never seen before, never knew that could possibly be created. And then we fall in love with that world, and then we fall in love with other things like the characters and the storytelling and the world, in and of itself, or maybe the music, or maybe the art and animation of it. Whether regardless of what we fall in love with of that one key thing when it comes to that certain show, manga, anime, whatever you want to call it, that story, that fiction, we all tend to fall in love with, like, whether it be one thing or a number of other things. And I feel like, again, thinking for the past couple of days, maybe it's a thing where the author puts one thing over another, where someone like Jujutsu Kaisen, they put characters, they basically put, like, the story, like a story heavy, anime, like this, they put storytelling over character writing, which is why we have a more divisive story, like story heavy show, than we do have with the actual characters. Because again, we know that Gege can create, like, good written characters, but he doesn't typically flesh them out as much as fans like me want him to. Like, for example, he's only had like a movie and like 5 episodes to really showcase who he is and his character, like, in total. And I would have loved to have seen him, like, as the main villain of the show. I would have loved to have seen him for a time, him be, on top of the food chain, basically. But we all know it was inevitable that he was eventually going to get killed by Gojo. But um, my point being, from what I previously said, is that all authors really put one thing over another. Other authors typically love to kind of balance their show. Like, for example, I would possibly say Hunter x Hunter, which is why I love the show. It's a perfectly balanced show where, well, not perfectly. There are a couple of flaws about it, but the show overall is a very balanced show where they balance the character writing, the world building, and the storytelling, where they tell different stories with different cast of characters in the different arcs that Hunter x Hunter has. And then you have an anime like Chainsaw Man, where they value, I would say, I mean, that's a pretty balanced anime too, I guess you could say, but I want to talk about Chainsaw Man currently, and I want to talk about, like, Chainsaw Man Part 2 overall, and how... Actually, I don't really know what... Because, I mean, there's a lot of things out of whack with Chainsaw Man Part 2, like... I mean, the characters are good, but I feel like outside of probably Asa, outside of Asa, most of the characters are kind of carried from their lore from part one. And I don't want to go off topic too much, but I mean, the storytelling, the character writing, all of it is kind of out of whack. Even the art is kind of out of whack. And I don't want to, because some of the art is actually pretty good. But compared to part one, it's not really. But again, that's a story for a different day, for a different video or whatever. But we have to appreciate what Gege has given us. Like, maybe not for the diversive character writing, but we could give him credit for, I guess, writing and developing some good key things in his own anime. For example, being Sukuna. I don't think Sukuna is a very well written villain. Now, I know some people were looking forward to seeing his backstory. To be honest with you, I don't at this point I don't really care about seeing a backstory. I'm fine with seeing just the way that he was. I don't really need a backstory of Sukuna to really tell me who he is and what he's become. I don't need an explanation. Not everyone, and again, that's one thing I do appreciate about Gege. Not everybody in the show needs a backstory to tell us who they are. They can just tell us through their words, through their actions, et cetera, et cetera. And that's the perfect example of who Sukuna is and who he's come to really be. And he is definitely a breath of fresh air as a villain and as like this inner demon trope that we've seen and shown in. Like he's definitely a breath of fresh air and one thing and one of Gege and definitely one of Gege's greatest creations. And you could also say Gojo, for example. Now, I honestly would have loved to have seen more of Gojo, but for what we've been given from him, I feel like he's definitely used his time wisely, and I feel like Gojo is definitely one of the best written, overpowered characters that I've ever seen in any show, period. And Yuji, for example. I mean, Yuji, like, not many manga writers and not many manga writers typically write a MC that's as greatly written as Yuji. I feel like Yuji has like the most realistic hero trope that I've ever seen. Like Yuji, he doesn't really carry himself to be a hero, but his actions are very heroic in a sense. And I feel like the way he reacts and the way that he is layered down and the way that he's pushed to the brink of wanting to just die and commit suicide, he is the most realistic MC that I've seen in a good while. And he is definitely a breath of fresh air when it comes to the hero trope in anime, in my opinion. And he's a very realistic MC, and I really love the character development that Yuji has gotten. And again, it's funny to me how it's said that Gege doesn't care or that he hates characters like Yuji and Gojo, yet throughout, like, regardless of the hate, he has made these greatly written characters for us that we never thought could have been possible. Now, I do tend to make fun of Gojo sometimes and call him like a Killua copy, because there's certain things about Gojo that's inspired from Hunter x Hunter and Killua, but I mean, again, like characters like Gojo, Geto, Sukuna, Yuji, even Jogo. Has like probably my favorite death in the entire show. Like I've never seen a death like that. I've never seen someone as powerful. Excuse me. I've never seen someone as powerful as Jogo become this very powerful curse, and the dude could literally wipe out 85% of the roster for JJK, if not 90% or 95. But he's still holding back. He still hasn't reached his full potential, and that's due to the fear of being killed and I guess the lack of, like Sukuna said, like the lack of drive that he's had to reach someone like Gojo, Satoru Gojo, in his adult form, of course. Again, like he touches on very interesting things that I've never seen in other anime and manga, and that's something that I really want to take the time to appreciate. Like really. And I mean, yeah, I can't really think of anything else. I could go on for the next 15 to 30 minutes saying how quick Yuta's character development was and how it could have been more fleshed out and how we could have gotten JJK 0 to not just be 4 chapters, but it could have been like 12 or 13 at least, or even 24 if you wanted it to kind of extend our time with that cast. Or I could go on to say how he's wasted Miwa and how she could have been better developed as a character and how strong she possibly could have got. Okay, yeah, my phone just cut out. But like I said, like he could have gone on to really talk about how Miwa could have been, a much better swordsman than she was before. She could have possibly gotten stronger, or gotten stronger mentally, possibly, and become more determined because of Ken. Or we could have seen the results of how Kenjaku is, or not Kenjaku, but how Kokuchi has impacted her life, like after the Shibuya arc, and her character development alone, or what could have been her character development, could have definitely have impacted the Shibuya arc because it could have shown how impactful the Shibuya arc actually was. You know what I'm saying? Um, I can't really think of anything else, man. My phone just cut off. I'd probably have to get like a new recorder app because this one is kind of like it's like after 20 minutes, if I don't touch the phone, it just randomly turns off. So I might try and get like a new recorder, see what I could possibly get. I'm trying to think of what else, man. Because Gege does have some really good character writing. The world of JJK isn't really that synonymous. We don't really go that from what I've. Sorry, that was my TV. But he doesn't really go that deep into the world of JJK. Like I've been hoping for years that he would have like a Heenan arc, like is it like a Heenan arc? Not or it's spelled out like Heian era. Like I would like to see like that era and how prominent Sukuna was in that era and the different sorcerers from that era that might be in the works. Maybe not. But yeah, like the point of the last video was for me to really point out the possibilities that Gege didn't really put upon, and it sort of pissed me off because I saw JJK in a way as kind of like the resurrection of Naruto, where there's all this world building and all of these characters in the world of Naruto that don't really get the proper, development or the proper time to shine than other main characters get in the show. And by the end of Naruto, I again was praising the show because it's really difficult to write, to go on a 12-year run in the anime and to write something as diverse of and impactful as Naruto, but I was still disappointed as a fan that we didn't really get to see the full scope of Naruto. And I felt like with JJK, though it did have its inspirations from Bleach and Hunter x Hunter and all these other animes, I was really excited to really see how JJK could really impact me as a fan. And it definitely has impacted me. And Gege has really forced me to put my time into reading and watching the anime over and over. I like to rewatch some of my favorites, and JJK is definitely that. But I can't help but talk about the disappointments I have for JJK, and I'm gonna make a video on my disappointments for Demon Slayer too, because as a fan of both shows, I can't help but express my disappointment. But overall, I feel like Jujutsu Kaisen has definitely done a better job than Demon Slayer at really expanding its own world, So I gotta give JJK more credit than I will give Demon Slayer in the future whenever I do make the video. And yeah, man, that's really about it. Yep.